Hello, everybody. Welcome to People's Radio United. Today is October 10th, 2017. This would have been the 33rd birthday of Serena Shim. Serena, as everybody should know, was an American citizen, a reporter working for Press TV in Turkey, reporting on the situation with ISIL, when she found something that no other so-called media organization could be bothered to find. And that was proof of ISIL fighters crossing the border from Turkey into Syria in World Food Organization vehicles. Shortly after that, the Turkish intelligence agency, MIT, started spreading rumors that Serena was a spy, encouraging locals to inform MIT of where she was and to turn her in. Nobody locally believed it. To this day, nobody locally believes it. Serena went on Press TV and reported that she was being sought by the MIT, that she didn't know what was going to happen, that she was fearful. Less than 48 hours later, there was a very suspicious accident, and it led to the death of Serena Shim. On this third-year anniversary and during this week, we will be bringing this subject back to the public consciousness. And we're going to play some clips from past shows, talk about new initiatives, new ways that the public, the Twitterverse, the online community can help to make sure that Op Serena Shim and our Sassy do not fade. Her death will not be in vain. Hello, Tim.
Hello, Glenn. That was an awesome opening.
Thanks. Well,
we got a new hashtag that Op Serena started, and it's hashtag Who Murdered Serena Shim. And there's a selfie campaign going on where you can either write that on a piece of paper, or I think Op Serena has some downloadable or printable different pictures and who killed Serena Shim, who murdered Serena Shim, pages that you can print and take a selfie with it, wear a Guy Fawkes mask, wear a bandana, or show your wonderful faces. It's totally up to you. And it'd be nice that, a lot of us for the next week or two are going to make those our AVIs as well. So go ahead and do that. And Op Serena's going to, and make sure you connect it to the hashtag Who Murdered Serena Shim. And Op Serena is going to monitor the hashtag and pull all the, and make sure everything gets reposted. Just to raise awareness for Serena, to show your support for Serena, because it's 3 years, like you said, and there's no justice. No one even seems to care. No people in the government care, and oddly enough, most of her peers, other journalists, don't seem to care either.
Yeah, unfortunately, that seems to be the pattern. We will be reminding people today with clips from her peers, we did a show on October 17th, 2015, which was in this same week, which is between Serena's birthday and the day she was killed. And on that show, I'll just say this right now. Either being a host or a co-host or a guest on internet radio I've been involved in over 200 shows, but I re-listened to that show again yesterday. That is the single show that I am the most proud of. The content on that show, the statements, the emotion from the people is fantastic as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I don't understand how anybody could listen to that 2-hour episode and not be connected to this, to not be concerned, to not want to assist in getting to the bottom of this. And Serena's sister Fatima was on, also a good friend of Serena and a peer in media from Beirut. Farah Atoue was on. Her statements to this day just blow my mind. I mean, you know, there's a lot of things, as you said, the media themselves, other people in media were just basically told that stay away from this. Don't talk about it. You know, there were questions asked in the beginning of U.S. State Department spokespersons, and they just, you know, it didn't exist. No, we have no information, no updates, no nothing. Then, of course, there's the ludicrous statement that the U.S. State Department does not investigate suspicious death of American citizens overseas. Since when? Anybody remember?
Just remember, this is the same time they were doing nothing but investigating the deaths of the people at Benghazi.
Exactly. That's just what I was going to say. Like, does anybody remember Benghazi? You know, like, unbelievably selective and disinformative from the U.S. government. Something that probably not a lot of people are aware of, but I know you are. But I'll just say this for the record. After that show that we did in October of 2015, there were 3 separate attempts to phish my email and phish my Twitter account. I have every reason to believe that was done by MIT. You know, it's the same old story. The deep state does what they want to do. Anybody who wants to bring it to the light of day may run into some resistance of one type or another.
That's the norm for Serena Shim.
Yeah, it does seem to be. I mean, there's been an awful lot of shadow banning of hashtags and accounts and all kinds of other things, but, you know, nobody's got any comment. No, there's nothing happening. And it continues to go on to this day.
Yeah, I know we got a lot of clips today, and we got, you know, like you said, your show was so awesome. Like I don't know, is it still archived somewhere? Like, if possible, I say everyone who hasn't heard it needs to listen, and you're not going to get through it with dry eyes. It's really just so emotional, so sad.
Yeah, while we're on, I will make sure to get that link. That was a show that ran on Revolution Radio, not The View Up Here. But I will get that link and I will post it in the Spreaker chat. I will put it in our chat so you can spread it. And I'll also get it up on Twitter because, I had forgotten, you know, just how deep that show was. And, yeah, you know, you're right. Like I said, anybody who listens to that show, how can you not be interested or concerned? It doesn't make any sense.
Or pissed the hell off. It really makes you angry and enraged, too. Just the fact that they let this happen. You know,
well,
the whole purpose of People's Radio, I mean, it was born from Serena Shim. No one was giving any media coverage to what had happened, so we're like, I know you guys and Top Gear Live started doing shows, and I was like, man, I got to do something. So I did then my non-objective opinion, because we were doing Best Buds back then, just some comedy, surreal, political, stupid, stoner comedy. And Ryan, person that was doing it with me, Orion Best Buds, a lot of you people know him out there. He got testicular cancer, so the show just kind of stopped in its tracks right then for a while, and Ryan was like, let's just do something on YouTube that helps something and helps Serena Shim. And I was like, yeah, that's what we need to do. So that's when my non-objective opinion started, which evolved into People's Radio eventually. And it was all due to trying to get anybody to pay attention to what happened to Serena Shim. And actually that's our first clip, is just kind of about Serena Shim and about the story. And it's from actually the very first thing we ever did on People's Radio. So do you want me to play it now, or you want to say anything else?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and play the clip, and we'll be back in about 3.5 minutes.
This is Serena Shim. She was a United States citizen. She was a daughter, sister, mother, and a journalist. Her family and friends affectionately called her Sassy. Her mission in life was to expose the truth and make the world a better place. While on assignment for Press TV in Turkey, Serena witnessed ISIL militants being transported into Syria on World Food Organization vehicles via Turkey. Serena said that she had gathered evidence to support these claims. It was then that Turkish intelligence claimed Serena was a spy and sought to arrest her for questioning. Serena was worried. Her next move was to publicly go on air denouncing these accusations and telling the world about her current dilemma in hopes of protecting herself. On October 17, 2014, Serena aired this plea live on Press TV.
I'm very surprised at this accusation. I've even thought of actually approaching Turkish intelligence, and because I have nothing to hide and I've never done anything aside from my job, and I'd like to make that apparent to them. However, I am a bit worried because, as you know, and as the viewers know, that Turkey has been labeled by Reporters Without Borders as the largest prison for journalists. So I am a bit frightened about what they might use against me. We were some of the first people on the ground, if not the first people, to get that story of those Takfiri militants going in through the Turkish border from the Bab al-Hawa Rihanli border, being sent in. I got images of them in World Food Organization trucks. It was very apparent that they were Takfiri militants by their beards and by the clothes that they wore, and they were going in there with NGO trucks. And I just find it very odd. They went to several local residents here, asked about me. The residents said, no, we know her, we have seen her before, we've seen her work, she's not a spy. And they were blatant on going through with the fact that, no, yes, I actually am, and that they told any people that if they see me to bring me in or to give them a phone call. So I find it odd. I don't see why they're taking this action against me at this point. I think that it may be because some of my previous stories that I've aired, because now in the area of Kobani, we haven't been inside. We've been telling the story from the Turkish side of the border. There's other international news agencies there as well. I don't know how they tell their stories or how accurate their stories are, and if that's why they have pinpointed me in this particular incident.
This would be Serena's last on-air report. 2 days later, on October 19, 2014, Serena Shim and her cousin Judy Irish were traveling down a 3-lane highway. A truck crashed into their car at full speed, not even attempting to stop. After the crash, both women were alive. No police came, only military. Judy Irish was taken to a local hospital, and Serena Shim was taken away to another location. There was no other information available except that sometime after she was taken away, she was killed. All of her belongings, including videos, pictures, reports, and evidence, have mysteriously disappeared. The official story of the Turkish government has changed and changed again. Staged pictures of the accident and multiple stories were released to the public. This case has no shortage of misinformation. The U.S. claims they do not investigate United States citizens killed abroad, even though they have done so more often than not in the past. A media blackout has been imposed. Journalists were being told not to mention Serena Shim. Then the world went silent about the mysterious death of Serena Shim.
And we're back with the People's Radio Serena Shim 3-year tribute show on her birthday. So we have Steve Shagwell joined in now. How are you doing, Steve?
Oh, I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
I'm good.
Fantastic.
We're good. It's
Um,
gonna get a lot sadder in a minute.
yeah, yeah, understandably. Um, so yeah, we're doing this thing on the anniversary of Serena Shim's birthday.
Yes, indeed. She would have been 33 today.
hmm And you know, I always tell I always tell everybody when I talk to them about this, just in interactions. So I'm going to say it because there's people listening to this show. There's like this is just an incredible story all the way around. You have the scandal of the century, unquestionably, and for every activist out there who's been looking for, how to really crack open the floodgates of truth, uh, it's here in this case, and then you have an amazing woman, an amazing journalist, one of the most legitimate journalists that ever existed, an amazing family. The DNA that just runs in this family is incredible. Everything about this is just incredible, and unfortunately now everything about it is sad because of how the government handled this person who was basically doing us a favor, a big national security favor.
Well, I mean, you want to talk about Operation Mockingbird, which never did end. I mean, and I'm sure we're going to hear it in the clips from Farah, her being in media in Lebanon. And, I mean, that was the issue she brought up 2 years ago. It's like, look at the role model that Serena presented of digging and documenting and having ethics, and yet all these people who are supposedly in the same craft simply do nothing. Now, I understand it's not quite that simple. A lot of people were told to back off this story, but still, are you people journalists, or are you paying the mortgage, quote unquote?
Exactly.
Well, yeah, you're right about that, Glenn. And I think that this is a very dangerous thing for journalists to go near. I mean, like, what, a dozen journalists have been suicided trying to follow up her story. And so it's dangerous. And yeah, there's a lot of pressure on journalists, but what I would say to any journalist out there that is just trying to keep their job or their life and play by the rules, these are dangerous times for everybody. We have people almost daily now out in the streets of America and around the rest of the world getting tear gassed, for just demanding some government accountability and transparency. We have even politicians aren't safe. It's dangerous to be a politician with ethics. We've seen what happens to politicians with ethics. These are just dangerous times for everybody, not just reporters. And it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to either nut up, or are you going to like be a bitch?
Well, again, I mean, one of my favorite movies of the last decade is Thank You for Smoking. And the famous line that's become part of our lingo is paying the mortgage. And, this is just something that is an excuse all too often.
Yeah. I just, if you're a journalist, you would think they would care, but the fact is most journalists now are owned by corporations who bribe the government legally, and they say what they're told to say and don't say what they're told not to say, because their job is their income, and it's they need it to survive, and they're scared of losing their job. But there's other journalists out there. There's still a few, like Serena Shim, Jackie Sutton, and others who go out there and get the stories, even if it means losing their freedom or their life or whatever, because the truth getting to the people is the most important thing to them.
Well, I think in one of the clips from Farah, I mean, I forgot all about it. When I listened to the show again yesterday, and when Farah told us that we were journalists and we had more balls than the entire established media, it brought me back to the shock that I felt when I heard that. And, you know, if you think about it, you know, is she wrong? You know?
I don't know. I never considered myself a journalist, but at the same time, journalists aren't getting the story out, and we're doing our best to do so, even if it's to a smaller audience, because we don't have billions of dollars in advertising dollars from corporations as they do. So they, you know, they can kind of shut something down, shut a story down, or make a story really big, and it's always their choice as far as what the masses see. So we're trying to do our part and get the message out, and I think all people can do that. You don't have to be a journalist. You just have to be someone who cares.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier, you know, these are dangerous times for everybody, no matter who you are, you know. You're going to nut up or be a bitch. You know, get in this fight.
Yep. So do you guys want to roll the next one? I think it's Glenn and talking to Farah.
Sure.
Sounds great.
All right, I'm going to let it roll.
You worked with Serena in journalism in Lebanon, is that correct? Or in Turkey?
Yes, I worked with Serena in Beirut. I worked for Press TV, and then I worked for another channel. I worked for Serena since 2007, and I left Press TV, but she continued working for that station.
And what
we were mates for a very long time.
Oh. So what have you got to say about the professionalism of Serena and the way she conducted herself on the job? You know, is there any question at all that she was nothing but a good ethical journalist?
Actually, I'm pretty sure that of course, her sister is online right now. I'm pretty sure that journalists have contributed. They have said enough. I'm sure that her sister explained the wider vision of her sister's personality. Actually, from a journalistic perspective, Serena on the ground was a very professional, hard-working, enthusiastic journalist. I mean, we learned a lot from her, especially me. She started anchoring for Press TV in 2007. It was her first experience. It was my first experience too. At the same time, we began the first step in this field. We had different personalities. I had to be with her all the time just to imitate some of the actions that she does on air. It was really funny how she can actually turn a very serious subject and dissect it and make it easy for listeners to actually see and to actually be interested to continue watching till the last minute. She proved herself in a very short period of time to be a very hard-working war correspondent, as Press TV nominated her just a year and a half later to go around the world and broadcast on the ground. They sent her to the most dangerous locations. They sent her to Ukraine, they sent her to Syria, they sent her to Libya, they sent her to Syria, they sent her to Turkey. If she wouldn't have proven herself for these years, the past years, that she's and up to the standards, they wouldn't have risked that. They wouldn't have nominated her. They wouldn't have sent her. I mean, I still remember up to this moment how she used to call me and actually say that the head of Press TV was very proud of what she was doing. She had a very serious and straight connections with him directly because of how close she was, because of how hardworking she was. Of course, she was inspiration to every one of us, especially us in journalism. And that's why radio stations like yours, That's why how programs like yours, shows like yours, actually shed the light on her own achievements and at the same time inspired others to know more about this brave woman that actually recorded a huge sign in history and taught journalists how to be good and hardworking journalism. And that's why I'm very proud talking to you today. I'm very proud that actually I have the chance to either me or her sister or any member of the family. And I speak, of course, on the behalf of every one of her friends. I do believe that we are really excited that we have now a door that can listen to us, a door that can actually open wide ranges to other journalists to be interested to speak about it, to speak up at least. After a year of leaving us, we had no chance to actually go on television. We had no chance to go on radio stations. We had no chance to speak to journalists simply because they were banned, simply because they were out of sight, simply because they were afraid to speak about her. And now that we have the chance, I'm grateful for that. And I hope that other journalists and other radio hosts, other TV hosts will be inspired by this conversation held today. And they will open wider doors for us to speak up. At least if we won't call for her justice and succeed, then we will succeed in making the world know today who Serena Shim was and who the brave journalist was.
Well, there you go. I mean, you can hear the passion. You can hear the pain in her voice when she speaks about Serena. And, you know, that's something that from everything I've heard, and I'm sure everything you guys have heard, that's a common experience for everybody who came across Serena professionally and personally, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, she was what you are supposed to be an investigative journalist. And I guess, you know, there are those who see that as a very large threat.
A lot of bad people see it as a very large threat.
As well they should.
Yeah, we have the second Farah clip if you want to go straight to that so people can listen to some more of Farah talking about this with her passion.
Sounds good. I mean, you know, I don't really know how to even intro what she says because, you know, no explanation is needed. I mean, she made that show. Her statements and her passion made the entire show. It left a permanent impression on me. So, I mean, might as well just let it play.
Yeah, and before we roll it, I'm going to encourage everybody. I know you just posted it, the full show. I really highly recommend, once again, that if you haven't heard it, you listen because it shows the pain of the family and friends. And this was like the year after, right, Glenn?
Yeah, this was October 17th, 2015.
Yeah, so it was just, you know, now we're 3 years on and still nothing. Nobody cares. Nobody will do anything. We have a new jackass president now, and he's not helping. So I'm going to roll it. Here we go.
You continue to work in journalism. Have you seen any evidence of reporters being instructed not to mention Serena in any reporting?
For sure, at the beginning of the situation, Serena's story was a very critical one. Critical one to an extent that you're not even allowed to ask what happened. You're not even allowed to follow up with the situation. I do believe that I've seen journalists who wanted to tackle the situation, but they were banned. Some of the reasons that were submitted were, we do not have enough information, so what will you go on TV and talk about? I do know today that as a journalist, you need an evidence to actually convict, or you need an evidence to blame someone for anything. But I wish that they would have allowed these journalists not to go on television and blame, but at least go on television and speak about her. That's the point. Speak about her. Speak about her achievements as a journalist. Let the world know about her. We're not blaming any kind of side because we do not have any vital evidence. But we do believe that her story is a very mysterious story that has a lot of question marks at the end of these statements. And when a question mark is found, then as a journalist, you are allowed to open the subject and speak about her widely. Why would they be banned to go on television and say anything about her? Is it because of lack of information? That's not right. Even if we do not have enough information about who made the crime or about who was behind the crime, or even if there is a crime at the beginning, we do know that this girl was threatened just a day before her assassination. And that by itself requires investigations on a higher level, on an international level. That by itself requires journalists to write a scoop about her. That by itself allows it to be a major headline dominated by some important newspapers along the region. That by itself is a story. And that's what actually shook us as a family, shook us as a friend. I mean, where are these journalists that are supposed to be interested? I mean, don't we look for scoops? Isn't that what our job is about? To be the first to actually write the story, to be the first to grab the attention about certain stories? Then why were they not interested? And the answer comes as in because they were simply banned to be interested. Because Serena's story is not a normal story. It's a story that is concerned on an international level. A story where countries, vital allies of the United States, are actually involved in the story, and that's why we're not allowed to speak about her. That's really sad. That's really devastating. But again, we say nothing will keep us silent. I know today that we're not convicting any side because of lack of evidence, but we do know that we have the right to stand and call for justice for Serena Shim and thank all those that are working on that behalf.
Yeah, we got to stand and demand justice for Serena Shim, just as Farah said. Yeah, once again, you guys were here today talking about Serena Shim on what would have been her birthday. It's a sad celebration, I guess, of her life, and we're playing clips. We're promoting Op Serena's Take a Selfie for Serena, where they're asking everybody to either print out one of their Who Murdered Serena Shim pages, or just write hashtag Who Murdered Serena Shim on a piece of paper and hold it up and take a selfie. Like we said before, wear a mask, wear a bandana, or show your face. It's totally up to you. Just show support for Serena. You could even just have your hand holding the sign. It doesn't have to even be a face. It just, just do something to show support, and it raises awareness. People look at your, if you use it on your AVI, people look at your AVI. They say, oh, what's this sign you're holding? Who Murdered Serena Shim? And people who may have never, ever heard of Serena Shim might look up the hashtag and learn about her and maybe join the fight to get justice for her. So that's what we're hoping.
And I mean, you never know who that person that sees it and says, oh, what is this? And goes and looks at it. You never know who that person might be. I mean, that person might be somebody who has access to information that it never occurred to them to, look at. It could be, a well-known activist who can muster a lot of support. And we're doing this really because of the censorship effort. This is the most heavily censored thing I've ever seen, the most heavily censored scandal I've ever seen. I mean, Tim and Glenn, you were involved in this before I was. I mean, and you've told me stories like there's just such an incredible censorship effort, and there's information, but putting it out there before the censorship issue is resolved isn't going to be as effective, And so these things like the selfies for Serena and the thing last May of going out and handing out flyers and making a spectacle, just even if it's just a couple people. These things get people's attention, and one of them might be the nut that cracks this whole cracks the censorship issue somehow. So keep doing it, people. These things seem little, but it's all we've got when the government literally controls all the media.
No, absolutely. I mean, listening to that second clip of Farah, I mean, she's saying it flat out that, other journalists in the region, in Lebanon, in Le Bled, were told to stay away from this. Don't mention it. Don't bring it up. I can remember on that show talking to her when I said, at that time, there was free AJ staff because the Egyptian government was holding members of Al Jazeera unjustly. Peter Greist, Mohammed Fahmy, they were finally released, and that was such a big stink. It was a global campaign, but yet they were imprisoned. They weren't killed. And at that time, I can remember saying, what has Al Jazeera said about Serena Shim? Next to nothing. What had Al Arabiya said about Serena Shim? Next to nothing. So, I mean, I think Farah got the point across that this is a coordinated effort to simply deny speaking about Serena Shim's assassination, which is what she called it on air, an assassination. And when you're up against that, it's up to us, everyday people, to make sure that this stays in the consciousness.
Yeah, it really is.
But then, again, if you listen to that show, especially listening to her sister Fatma, there was a lot more to Serena. She was a sister, she was a mother, she was a daughter. She knew how to have fun. She wasn't just somebody who was an ethical journalist and she commanded respect by doing that, but she was a lot of fun. She was, a good person to be around. And Tim, I think you have a clip that relates to that.
Yeah, I'll set it up real quick. It's on our it's on People's Radio YouTube. Maybe some people have heard it before. None of these clips are very new, but it's a story from her father, Ali Shim, talking about a funny incident that happened when her and Fatma were kids. I'm gonna go ahead and roll it right now. It has to do with a parrot and Serena Shim and Fatma Shim when they were kids. So here it comes.
People's Radio United.
On a lighter note, I mean, that was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. She was someone you wanted to be around, that you enjoyed being around.
Yeah, I remember. I'm not sure if it was a non-UK radio or on Revolution Radio with Canadian Glenn and Pup. But yeah, Fatma was on there telling stories about Serena when they were younger and things that happened. Some of them were just so funny.
Not just when they were younger, Tim. The things those sisters did. I mean, I can tell you a simple story where on one phone, tell your kids to let me in. They're calling on another phone. This is overseas. Or first time Sassy got shot at by snipers. She called Fatma. They're going to kill me. Come. That was her first experience being in direct crossfire. So Fatma was going. I mean, Sassy was young. I mean, if you're going to kill my sister, I need my little sister with me. Called her back and said, don't forget the USP.
You see, I tell you a funny story. I have a big bird, the bird who talks. I don't know what you call it.
A parrot? Parrot.
They killed Blue?
Yeah, his name is Blue. And they took it out without me knowing, right? And they went on a bicycle, both of them. And the blue went down, and they stepped on it. They drove on it, whatever is the bike you say it. They, he died. And what they do, they make a ceremony to and bury him as a Muslim, and they.
Okay. So yeah, we keep getting disconnected. You were telling us about Serena and Fatma ran over your parrot Blue. They stole the bird, ran him over with their bicycle, and then they held a Islamic funeral for him.
They ran him over by mistake.
They collect few guys, and they say, well, let's walk behind him, and take him and bury him, and they came home, and they tell me the parrot. I told them, where's the parrot? They say, well, Dad, we don't know. And then they told me, I tell you the truth. I tell you the truth. I said, what's going on? She said, they say, well, we bury him in an Islamic way. He died. I said, wow. I was so happy, because what I taught them, I teach them. You know what I mean? And before we buy the parrot, I was buying the parrot for them for $600. A lady behind me, she told me, what, you buying this parrot for these kids? I said, yes. She said, what the hell you buying for $600? I could buy a car. I love these kids so much,
Yeah.
And this is one of them jokes.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Serena Shim's mother and father, Ali Shim and Judith Poe, talking about Serena and Fatma accidentally murdering a very expensive bird he bought for them with a bicycle, and having a Muslim funeral for the bird out of respect.
Kids will be kids.
Yeah. Nothing is safe.
Oh.
I think it helps demonstrate, just the everyday normalcy and family life, and it puts a human face on Serena.
Yeah, that's important. I mean, I know a lot of people use Serena's story, as far as the people within that support the op and follow the op, to try to push one political agenda or another. But the fact is, neither side, not the Democrats, not the Republicans, gave a damn about Serena Shim since day one. Someone today was on Twitter saying, this whole selfie thing just seems so narcissistic. And I didn't respond to that at first, because I was like, that's their opinion, and why start a issue? And then some other people started responding, and they're like, well, why don't you do something why don't you contact representatives and ask them to do something? And I'm like, we did that.
Yeah, that's been done, and it accomplished nothing.
Yeah, I know. And they're like, well, why don't you keep doing it? I said, we did it for the whole first 2 years straight. I haven't seen a response to that yet. And nobody cared. We went to all the journalists we could find, and almost nobody. There were a couple people that did stories about Serena, but they never did follow up. They never made it a big story. It was always just a blurb, as far as mainstream media,
Yep.
I know a lot of independent media. I can't remember everybody, but there's a lot of great people in independent media that have covered Serena Shim, not just anonymous related people. There's been some other journalists that were not connected to anonymous that have done that, and I commend them all, because anybody that helps spread this story is doing a service to the world, because what Serena died for was to get the truth out about things that our governments don't want us to know about, how they commiserate and work with terrorists. They create terrorists. They allow terrorists to roam freely and do their bidding in World Food Organization trucks.
Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing that, media, we know the corporatization of media. That's nothing new. Everybody's familiar with that. But it's not just media. It's governments. It's NATO. It's OSCE. OSCE themselves said, "Oh yeah, we're going to follow up. We're going to look into this." They didn't do squat. It was all lip service. And if you don't necessarily have to be a tinfoiler, but when something happens and government agencies don't even come out and give a thorough denial of investigation or a refusal of investigation, when they just simply try to say nothing about an event, that's not right. I mean, think about it. If you do something that you're not proud of, or you were involved with that you're not proud of, what's the human reaction? To go out of your way to apologize about it, or just pretend it didn't happen? And that's what we've seen.
Well, I guess I don't, like, people are like, call your representatives and this kind of thing. And of course, we talked about how that's been done, but why exactly are people thinking that a corrupt government is going to bust itself?
Well,
I'm just kind of trying to wrap my head around that.
Because historically, they always have monitored and protected us from them, right?
Right.
In theory.
Yeah, governments are the most honest people I know.
I can tell you one thing, this, with this massive censorship effort we're dealing with and how difficult it is. I'm pretty sure that if every armchair quarterback out there actually got off their ass and did something, we may not be needing to have this conversation today.
Yeah, that's very true.
Just a thought.
It's just how many times we put petitions up and they keep getting taken down time and time again. It's an uphill battle, and so much stuff is just useless because whereas with some other ops, these tactics work, we get shut down immediately. I know a lot of ops get shut down for a lot of things they're doing because when you're trying to do good in the world, the bad people don't want it, and the bad people have power, so they can shut you down. But Op Serena, yeah, like I think Steve said before, it is insane censorship. I mean, from day one, pretty much, it's been nothing but censorship. Hashtags, videos, every single thing you can do, they're trying to thwart it in one way or another.
Well, I can remember on October 17, 2015, I remember me saying on air that I was so impressed with the tweet storm preparations and how it had made a new standard for tweet storms. And it was outstanding. That was so easy for people to use and interact. And I think the most telling thing about the level of censorship for Op Serena Shim was the immediacy of it. Like, it happened right now, pretty much, within an hour after something was started on the internet, there were already counteractions that you could see. And, again, like I said, you don't have to be a tinfoiler. Like you said, Tim, a lot of things get shut down, but, it may take a day or two. They leave it alone until it gains some steam. And then they say, okay, this is actually catching on. We have to silence this. But anything regarding Serena, was shut down right now. And I think that's a huge red flag.
It's almost like the Google Corporation hates anything that has to do with Serena Shim.
And you have to ask yourself, what level does that sort of action come from?
The bastard level.
Well, a very high bastard level, I would speculate.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
There's, in the last 5 minutes, we've been hitting on a recurring theme, and so I'm just going to spell it out. You cannot rely on the government for this. Take it from the people who have been working on this for a while. The government is doing everything it can to stop us, and they would love nothing more than for us to rely on them to do something about it, because it would make all this work they're doing to try and stop us a lot easier. It's this is all candidates. If you had had Bernie Sanders win the election, talking from the American perspective here, if you'd had Bernie Sanders win the election, he's really tight with Israel, and guess what? Mossad's in on this shit. So there's that. Yeah, Donald Trump, our great reformer, that dude's got so many connections business-wise to Turkey and Erdogan, and MIT, Turkish intelligence, they're the ones who actually carried out the assassination. So you're not going to get any help from that guy, and you're not going to get any help from a president who has business dealings with him. Saudi Arabia was involved in this too, and I mean, Trump just sold them $150 billion worth of weapons. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that if it was Hillary that we'd wound up with, nothing would get done. And I don't even need to go into the reasons for that. I mean, no politician is going to take care of this. And if there is a politician who sincerely wants to take care of this, they will never succeed in getting office to be able to take care of it.
Absolutely.
This thing is so huge that I guarantee you one of the litmus tests for people being able to pass the gauntlet they have to run through to get public office was, are they going to talk about Serena Shim? Do we think they're going to talk about Serena Shim? Do we think they're going to bring this up, look into it? Do we think they're going to open an investigation? No, we don't. Okay, they can go, they can have public office then. Or if the answer was yes, it'd be like, well, then we got to shut them down, blackmail them, whatever it takes. So stop relying on your politicians, people. So that's all.
Yeah, and you forgot to mention that this happened during the Obama administration. An American citizen, journalist, murdered overseas, and not a word from the Obama administration, not even a condolence to her family, nothing. And oh my God, how many people have sent stuff? Obama was bombarded with stuff from Op Serena for years. Not a word. Not even a mention of her fucking name. Nothing.
No, that's true. I mean, just what Steve said, that is in the show from October 2015 where it was mentioned, because at that time, I mean, Porno Puppy was also a co-host that night on Revolution Radio. And he said right on air, I mean, there was a couple times when he got, riled, and he went and had a smoke and took a break, and he came back and he said, okay, I've just sent tweets to every Republican nominee for the nomination for president, like Serena Shim, what the fuck, And I mean, did he get a response? Any acknowledgement at all? No, absolutely none. And what you said, Steve, is absolutely right. These people don't get to that position to contest for the office of the president unless they fit the mold. That's how it is.
Yep.
You play the games of the deep state, or go find yourself another job to try out for. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, it's so sad and so ridiculous and so frustrating. Oh my God, it's frustrating. This op has consumed so much of my life, and I know even more of other people's lives. And it's like beating your head against a wall, nonstop. It's like you know, it's so frustrating. That's the only way I can explain it. I got the clips of Fatma loaded up, but I just wanted to real quick say that November 5th is coming, people. I know a lot of Anons are going to be out in the streets, and it doesn't take anything to just throw a hashtag Serena Shim or a hashtag Justice for Serena Shim or Who Murdered Serena Shim on a sign, you know. Even if it's on the back, you can flip the sign back and forth so you can have two causes, but just definitely try to spread the word out there. Hold up something that says Serena Shim so the cars going by and the people around could at least say, who is this woman they're talking about who was murdered for what? And maybe, you know, get a little bit more support and awareness for Serena by doing that on our day, which is November 5th during the Million Mask March.
Oh, absolutely. And it's fundamental to the root aims of the anonymous movement. Here was a legitimate, talented, what's the right word I'm looking for here? Legitimate, talented,
heroic,
and
brave.
Yes, she was heroic, but she was also thorough. She was very well schooled in how to do her job, and she sought truth. And that's exactly what one of the tenets of the entire anonymous movement is. So this Op Serena Shim is definitely well qualified to be represented on November 5th.
Yeah.
Very well said, Glenn.
You know, I mean, everybody, you know, I mean, this is part of the fracturing and the divide and conquer that is used on Anonymous. Who, it was just like they did with Occupy. Well, what do you really stand for? Well, quit trying to confuse everybody and just look at it, you know? And I mean, Op Serena Shim and what happened to her and why it happened to her, this should be top of the list for true Anons all over the world. This is exactly why we do what we do. It needs no explanation.
Yeah, and you know, if a win here is really, you know, I really believe this, a win here, and like I saw it the first time I looked at this, I was like, holy shit, you know, a win here is a critical strike against the establishment.
Yep.
You know, there's a lot of important causes going on and a lot of injustice, and I'm not taking away from any of those either. But, you know, just because of who this affects if it gets out and where this particular knife we hold, which organ of the beast it happens to be pointed at, this is the one we need to push in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know Op Serena has definitely tried to work with and support so many other ops, and a lot of other ops have worked with and tried to support Op Serena, and that's really, really, really important that we all work together to support each other's causes, because it makes everything bigger, it makes everything move faster, it makes everything gain more attention in a bigger way. So I just encourage everybody to do that. You know, whatever you're working on, just try to do as much as you can for Op Serena as well. And I know they usually support all the other ops a lot. So unity is key. Unity is key. Working together is always a must. And the division shit just got to stop, and it's ridiculous. There's way too much of that going on now. You know, everybody's op is important. Everybody's op needs to get furthered. I'm not. I don't think anybody's mission in life is less or more important than others. You know, trying to free people is trying to free people. Trying to expose truth is trying to expose truth. And
Yeah.
it's like you guys just said, it's all connected, and we got to realize that.
No, I think so. I think something else that, just based on that, as Steve said, quit relying on your politicians. They're not going to do fuck all for you. I think this Serena's case demonstrates clearly, stop relying on corporate media. They're not going to do shit. People need to get involved, period. If you want to know something, then you find it out. Don't wait to be given to you on a platter, because all you're going to get given to you on a platter is what somebody somewhere wants you to be given.
Exactly. So you want to move on to... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, but, that's why we all do what we do. And there are a lot more like us. And, I'll be honest, it's not the easiest thing to do. Sometimes it's pretty hard to tell if it's, this may sound kind of harsh, but sometimes it's hard to tell if it's even worth your fucking time. But all it takes is belief and the knowledge of why you're doing it, the purpose. And, as far as I'm concerned, that makes it all worthwhile to me. I've said many times, some of my shows get listens into 4 digits, coming close to 5 digits. Some shows that I've done that I think are extremely important have been listened to by maybe a couple hundred people. That's disappointing. I'll be honest about that. It is. But it doesn't matter. I'm doing it. Somebody's doing it. Other shows I listen to that nobody is aware of, they're doing it. They're putting in the effort, and that's important.
That would be us. The shows nobody's aware of.
But, it's like Farah said on that show we did in October 2015. I mean, we talked about this before we went on air. She called us journalists, and she said that we had more balls than the corporate press. And I remember being taken aback by that. I was like, whoa, holy shit. I've never considered myself a journalist. But in this day and age where anybody can be a videographer, anybody can be a blogger, when you take it at that scale, yeah, I guess we are journalists. And, I'll never forget that here's a person who was in media, who was on television in Lebanon every day. She's calling us journalists, and we have more balls than the people she works for.
And it should not be like that.
No, it shouldn't.
So yeah,
go
ahead.
The people with the big platforms should be the ones with the balls.
Yeah.
Like cojones should get you the big platform, but instead it's actually a lack of cojones that gets you the big platform.
Yeah, it's compliance.
Mm-hmm.
You just took the words out my mouth, Glenn, literally. Yeah, let's roll the first Fatma clip if you guys want.
Sure.
All right. This is from the same show, the Glenn and Porno Pup Blog Talk. It was called the Shimathon back then. They did. How many hours did you guys do of Serena's shows?
6 hours.
Wow. Yeah, I remember that was an awesome day of radio listening for me. That was long before People's Radio. All right, here we go. This is Serena Shim's sister, Fatma Shim, talking to Canadian Glenn.
Now, I know we talked about this before the show. You are in Beirut now. What is going on in the Middle East about your sister outside of Turkey? You were mentioning some awareness going on in Beirut.
Definitely. Being American and me and my sister both being American, it's very saddening to me because she did work here in Beirut, she did work in Iraq, and she did work in Syria and Ukraine, and she was in Kobani, and she's got a huge amount of support from these countries for the truth seeking that she did, but basically America's been very silent about it. Here in Lebanon, we're having the 1-year anniversary, and if you go into the city where me and Serena were living, there's posters of her, there's honor, there's a lot of words that have been written in Arabic, which is hard for me to translate, but basically expressing the work that she did and the hero that she is. And, it kind of gives me a peace of mind to drive down the streets and see that a year later after my sister's passing, that it's not, a number that has been lost, that she has not became a number, that, she has really, set it in stone, her work, and people have honored it, and they're still honoring it.
Excellent. That is excellent. And again, that just shows the difference in how things are reported or not reported, I mean, like you said, and like you said in the interview with RT, the American government has done absolutely nothing to help the family, but yet on the ground in Beirut, nobody has forgotten.
No, not only in Beirut. To tell you about the funeral, I had people from Kobani coming screaming, "She fought for us, we will fight for her." But what really saddens me is the fact that it was such an honor for us to grow up in America and coming to a third world country. That's when we realized it was a blessing. And just being in grade school or being in high school over there, my sister would always tell me, she would say, we're so blessed that just being installed from school with such passion and feeling that people should be treated in a certain way and human rights, that she took that just from the grade school in America and used that as success here in a third world country or any third world country that she went to. So for them not to give any acknowledgement after her seeing what they have installed her with as such a blessing, it was really saddening to me.
Well, there you go. I mean, people talk about, well, is it really an issue? Is it that big a deal? Well, I mean, we heard from Fatima right there. At that time, she was in Beirut for the 1-year anniversary of Serena's assassination. And you hear her speaking about posters that were put up with Serena's picture and people saying, she did not die in vain. We remember her. We honor her. We appreciate what she did. And I mean, those are the people who are on the ground where these things are going on. Like Farah saying that people came from Kobani to Beirut just for Serena's funeral, to grieve, to tell people what she did for them. And yet we have the intelligence agency of Turkey, MIT, saying she's a spy, turn her in. Like, talk about two complete sides of the coin. It's just ridiculous, in my opinion.
It's ridiculous in all our opinions.
Against the people's interests, So, if the people of Turkey think one way, the government thinks another. It's kind of a thing governments do. They want the opposite of what their people want usually.
No, I mean, if you want to talk about Turkey and the government of Erdogan, I mean, just look at what's happened over the last few years.
Don't get me started. Oh, my God.
I mean, Reporters Without Borders have named Turkey the #1 imprisonment nation of journalists, and that beats out Ukraine, Somalia, Libya, Sudan, North Korea. I mean, look at the rogues on this list, and yet Turkey, the NATO ally, is at the top of the list. What's wrong with this picture?
A whole lot.
Well, I don't. I think people need to start taking Erdogan and Turkey a lot more seriously. I think, before I came across this and got involved with this, I didn't think much of Turkey at all. I was like, well, it's a country and it looks like it's got some really beautiful cities, and maybe I can go see it someday and see what it's about. And that's about all I thought about it. And I wasn't aware that there's this guy Erdogan who is he's basically usurped their democracy. He has stated his intent to revive the Ottoman Empire. Like, this guy is making moves, and he's accomplished a lot. This is, to me, I'm looking at this guy, and this is probably the new public enemy number one. And people really need to start looking at Erdogan and looking at Turkey and check this shit out, because you won't believe what this little country is doing.
Absolutely. I mean, there are also issues in the political specter where, after the fact, it was pretty well fully revealed that Erdogan held the EU hostage for them to take more Syrian refugees than they wanted, because he wanted them liquidated out of his country for him to do certain things to support the so-called war on ISIL. This guy is a double dealer. He's a narcissist. He is a megalomaniac. I mean, there was the so-called coup attempt, which, in my opinion, turned out to be nothing but an excuse to arrest 40,000 Turkish citizens.
Yep.
Well, yeah, that's what it was.
And there are just these sweeping raids where they pick up all these people. The highest court in the land in Turkey, the Constitutional Court, said that this was illegal. And the president just comes out publicly and says, well, I'm not going to pay any attention to that. Screw them. I mean, what kind of rule is this? This is authoritarianism on full display. And, the West is just like, oh, yeah, this happened. Now sports.
Yep, now sports, and what celebrities are screwing what other celebrities.
Yeah, now he's got a friend in the president of the United States. So it's going to be even more so, and it's going to be harder to challenge Turkey and harder to challenge Erdogan. And it's, this is a dimension of this whole Serena Shim case that is important.
This
guy needs to be confronted, and once again, you can't rely on your government.
He's always had a friend in the president of the United States. That's the problem. This guy idolizes him a little more, though.
Yeah, they're definitely cozier, because of the business dealings and stuff. So, and that's what I'm saying. It's like our government is not going to protect us from this guy. It's really up to the people to confront the specter of Turkey and the rising totalitarianism coming from there. And I don't know how we're going to do that, but we need to do that. I do know this, supporting Operation Serena Shim and helping get this story out there is a great start towards that.
Well, I think there are a couple things that especially Americans need to be reminded of. I mean, it wasn't that long ago where President Erdogan made a state visit to the United States, and Erdogan's personal bodyguard detail assaulted American citizens exercising their First Amendment rights on American soil. It was, mentioned in passing. There are lawsuits happening in D.C. against his bodyguards, and in effect, the Turkish government, but you're not hearing about them, but they are going on. I mean, whether anything will actually happen is another matter altogether. But I mean, if there is court cases ongoing, it happened. And when in the history of the United States, have you ever heard of a foreign leader coming to the U.S. and allowing his bodyguards to assault Americans. So, I mean, there's, this thing with Trump and Erdogan. And even right now, as we speak, there is a spat happening publicly between Turkey and the U.S. over visas. Now, is this a real thing? Is it just something that's made up for, public consumption?
It's disinformation theater.
Yeah, I mean, and isn't the timing of it rather interesting?
Yeah, it definitely calls attention away from the fact that, our government actually issued an apology to Erdogan for the fact that his security guards beat up American citizens.
Well, here's the thing. There was videos of this. That jackass just stood there and then sent his security guards across the street because people were protesting him. They started beating the protesters, and the police did nothing but push the protesters back. It was almost like the Nazis were attacking people because the police sided again against the American people with the violent fascists, basically. Because that's what the Turkish government is. It's a fascist government.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, even before Serena was assassinated, there was so many stories already about the Turkish military labeling PKK a terrorist organization and YPG and other Kurdistan groups within Turkey. I mean, there's a large Kurd population within Turkey. And, I've said for a long time that I think Erdogan's goal is to liquidate the Kurds, flat out. And I don't see much resistance to that from the rest of this so-called coalition against ISIL.
Yeah, no. I would say that genocide is definitely a part of Erdogan's endgame.
And yet, what do we hear about that? Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But like you said, Steve, perfect description: disinformation theater.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a lot of it these days.
I think Gear has just joined us. You there, Gear?
Hi, guys. What's going down?
Hey.
Welcome.
Hey, nice to hear from you, Gear.
Thanks for having me. I know that it's halfway, 3/4 through the show. I don't know. How long are you guys on?
Got about another 45 minutes.
All right, not bad. Cool.
Yes, we have played clips from the past, from past shows, from Farah Atoue, who worked with Serena in Lebanon. We've played, one clip from her sister Fatma, and we got another one to go yet. We're just trying to, remind everybody about the chain of events and what Serena's death, the circumstances of it, and the shadiness of it, the underhandedness of it, and the complete lack of response that is completely out of character from the U.S. government, NATO, the Turkish government, everybody. It's just their obvious wish for this entire issue to go away.
Yeah, you guys did you guys did 2 or 3 Serena shows now on Top Gear Live, didn't you?
We did quite a few. I can't remember. We don't plan stuff or do things correctly. I'm on native time and top is top, so there's that.
Yeah, no, they were some really awesome shows too. You guys had the family on. I know you had the op on once or twice as well.
Yes, we did. I'm gonna be right back. I need to get gas.
Okay.
All right, you're right back.
So yeah, do you guys want to roll the second Fatma clip?
Sure, why not?
Let's do it.
Okay, this is another clip with Serena's sister, Fatma Shim, and it was done on the Shimathon with Canadian Glenn and Porno Pup. on BTR, so we're going to let it roll right now.
And the issue, she was working in Turkey for a long time, and there was no problem. There was, even when she went into Kobani and she was around the border and the camps and the Turkish military, things were fine until she saw what she saw with the World Food Organization vehicles, and then everything changed.
Surya al-Hur, which is the Free Syrian Army, and it has branched off into all different things. So I think one of the benefits that happened with Serena, because we have so many different branches of these organizations, is that when she had caught these people and had got this delicate information, they have no, for a lack of words, I want to say top dogs. Mm-hmm. So that's when the ball was lost. And a lot of people have the question like, okay, well, she got this delicate information and she was still living in Turkey. Well, at that time when she was living in Turkey, like I said, she was working for a production company that's owned by Erdogan. So everything is filtered. And that's when the eye became on to her. Serena was contacted by her friends that are working, or normal citizens that are part of the resistance, and when they were contacted by Turkish intelligence, they had contacted Serena, and that time is when she made the decision if she was going to go on to air, or if she was going to go to Kobani, or if she was going to run away, or what she was going to do. One of the things that Serena did tell me for a long time, because, the whole point of Serena being a journalist was to go into the government. And when she got to the point where she was going to be in the Lebanese government is when she decided that that's not what she wanted. And as a sister, I thought that was the highest goal that she could get to. And I asked her why, and she said, Fatima, if I'm going to go into the government, that means that there is nothing that I can change for humankind. There is no good that I can do. This is what I need to do. And that's why she chose to be a journalist and to be a truth speaker.
All right, there we go. There's Serena's sister, Fatma, talking about, she had intimate knowledge of what Serena was doing on the ground. Serena chose to involve her, to show her, was that a subconscious effort to have an unimpeachable witness? Perhaps. Or it could have been just sisters, But there you go. Fatma says, she was doing this work for a very long time. She was there. There was never a problem until she saw what she saw. So, what does that tell you? MIT, U.S. State, NATO, nobody had a problem with her reporting until she saw what she saw. So, to me, it's an easy deduction that what she saw is that damaging. And to me, it draws into question the entire premise for this war on Daesh, on ISIL. What is this really about? And obviously, as citizens of the world, it's none of our business.
Yeah. A couple of years back when this first happened, everyone was like, this is some kind of crazy conspiracy theory. And Steve will tell you, I'm very skeptical. I'm very far from a conspiracy theorist in any way, shape, or form. But I looked at all of the facts and all the evidence and heard all these stories, and there was no way to say that this was just a car accident. It was a planned crash, where both people survived, and like we said, one was taken to the hospital locally where you should be taken to in a car crash, and the other one was taken over an hour away to a hospital run by Erdogan's daughter that treated wounded ISIS soldiers, and she never left that hospital. And since the time that this happened, everyone's been saying conspiracy theory, and then slowly these stories start coming out proving what Serena Shim said was true.
Yeah, and I mean, there's
A lot of
been...
it. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, something else that tends to get omitted a lot of the time is because Serena was so independent and in the field, she traveled with basically all of her records, all of her evidence. She had nowhere to leave it. And, it just stands to reason that the safest place is with you. Well, all that stuff disappeared and it's never turned up. And, I really don't expect it ever to turn up. It's likely all been destroyed. But, again, it's like, who goes to these lengths if there's not something completely badass wrong going on?
Exactly. I mean, the military showed up to a car, quote unquote, accident. When does that happen? Has anyone listening or any one of these hosts on here ever seen a crash on a freeway or a crash on a roadway and the military shows up? Not the police, the military.
No, never.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, most people in
Absolutely.
Turkey hadn't seen it because that's what I asked everybody, even Turkish people. Like, when there's a car accident there, does military normally show up? Because it's a possibility. It's not a country I live in or know a lot about. I was
right.
Being part Armenian, I was raised to hate Turkey from the time I was a baby and didn't even know why. But yeah, so I didn't know. I was like, maybe military does show up in Turkey and it's a standard thing. But no, this never happens.
That's crazy. It's so crazy. It reminds me of I'm driving. I'm sorry. It reminds me of any native truth-telling mission here in the States. They go to these huge lengths to stop us from telling the truth. So how many people did you talk to in Turkey, and what was the general consensus then?
I talked to a lot of Turkish people that followed me or that I had met throughout Serena, or other people that I've interviewed and stuff, and everybody says that's not the standard thing in any crash in Turkey. The military doesn't show up. They have police like everybody else that show up, and they deal with it like a traffic accident. So yeah, and there's pictures to prove all of this. It's just so ridiculous. Such a cover up. Such a bullshit story they gave us. She dies of a heart attack after having a car accident that she wasn't really that injured in.
Well, I mean, this is another thing too that deserves mentioning again. Turkey didn't just come out with a story and stick to it. It changed 2 or 3 times. There were different trucks that hit them. There was different circumstances. There was different places on that highway. They just couldn't keep their story straight. And, I mean, again, you go to human nature. It's like if you ask your kid how something got broken or something disappeared. It's like the old Family Circle comics with that ghost with "Not Me" written on the chest. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you look at all the details of that, I mean, you notice that, I mean, a couple people have tried to debunk it, but the fact of the matter is when you look at it, you can't get around the fact that this was not a car accident. This was an assassination. I mean, there is enough evidence here where the actual, statement beyond a reasonable doubt definitely applies. I mean, there is just so much evidence and such a poor job of covering their tracks that you can conclude beyond a reasonable doubt that this was an assassination. And if this was an assassination, if she was assassinated, then you have to ask why. Well, she did say right before that she had this proof of NATO funneling weapons and militants and stuff to ISIS. So do the math, people.
Yep.
Yeah. It's terrible. But once again, let me just say for anyone just joining us, Serena Shim is having a I know there's a big tweet storm going on in general for Serena that a bunch of Anons are doing, which is awesome. But
yeah, high five to those guys.
Yeah, now but on the side, Serena Shim is doing take a selfie for Serena, and they have some I'm looking now. They have some stuff up there where you could download the pages or copy them out of Twitter and print. And they say, "Who murdered Serena Shim?" Hashtag. There's some with and without pictures on it, or just write it on a piece of paper, piece of cardboard, and hold it up and snap a selfie. Like we said before, wear a Guy Fawkes mask, wear a bandana, do whatever you want to do. If you need to hide your face, just show your hand holding the sign up. You don't have to show your face, but if you want to show your face, you're more than welcome to do that. That's great.
Like if the feds already know who you are and they're messing with you all the time, just give them a big finger,
Yeah.
Yep.
It's been
I know I will.
30 years for me. I'm getting tired of it. And, when you're being followed by the feds and when things like the shit that's happened to me and some of the other people in this group, you're always afraid that what happened to Serena is going to happen to you. You know they have the power to do that here in this country, so of course they have the power to do that in another country like Turkey, where you've got a dictator who, would pretty much do anything to hide the fact that they're spawning ISIS.
Yeah, exactly. But definitely oh, go ahead. I was going to say just definitely take a selfie for Serena. Put it on your AVI. We're going to run this from the 10th to the 19th. And if you do it after that, that's fine. I know me personally, I can't speak for all of Ops Serena, but I know me personally, I don't believe these things ever need to stop. If you didn't get to do it for whatever reason and it's a week later than the 19th, do it anyway. It can only bring awareness and it shows your support, and other people might question what this is all about, and you get to tell somebody and educate somebody and bring a new person supporting Ops Serena and the family and everything else. And that could only lead to good things, as we said earlier.
And just a reminder about why it's from October 10th to October 19th. Today being October 10th, this would have been Serena's 33rd birthday, and October 19th this year will be the 3-year anniversary of her assassination.
Yeah. You guys, I got another clip. This Judith Poe talking about her daughter being murdered on Turkish soil. You want me to roll that, or does anyone else have something to bring up first?
No, it speaks for itself.
Okay, I'm going to let it roll. The official story, do you think Serena was killed in a car crash, or do you think there's something more to it?
A car crash. Okay, it wasn't an accident. That's a definite.
That's what I meant. I mean, do you think it was an accident? Do you think the official story?
Oh, absolutely not.
Government.
Which official story? Because all we're getting, all the general public is getting is what Turkey is feeding to us.
Mm-hmm. I look at the Turkish story as what's the official story. That's what I meant.
Story from Turkey. The truck stopped. The truck didn't stop. It was a vehicle. It was a cement truck driver. Judy was the sole culprit, and then they charged the truck driver after the fact that didn't stop. Then they had a trial that was scheduled. Anybody know what happened to the trial?
I heard the trial was coming, and then I heard nothing about it. I heard he was guilty or something, and then nothing more about it.
Oh, but he didn't stop originally. And then it became a cement truck. And then months later, there's a trial charging him. Do you?
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I was asking. I think it's a ridiculous story, and there's too many different, variations of the story and different versions, and pictures don't add up and stuff. That's kind of why we're here today.
All that's coming out of Turkey.
Yeah, that Turkey's the only country that has done an investigation.
Turkey did an investigation?
Well, I mean, as far as they have an official story, not that they have investigated.
How many official stories do they have?
The story to cover their ass.
Bingo.
She died inside of she died during the car accident, and it was an accident.
No. There was no accident. I'm saying what I know. Was there a car crash? Yes. I only know that for reasons that obviously I can't divulge at this time. Did she die in that car or because of that car accident? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I was gonna actually let's get into that right now since we're talking about it. Okay, so when the accident happened, they took Judy Irish to one hospital and they took Serena somewhere else. Do you know why that was, or the whole story behind that?
I'm going to have to kind of back up and explain this a little bit. Mm-hmm. No, I have absolutely no clue why that would happen. That just doesn't even make sense. I know that that the American Embassy didn't even know where Sassy was when we went to receive her body.
Did they ever find any of her belongings, like video cameras?
Okay, let's start with this one, Tim, if you don't mind. I don't mean to interject.
No, that's fine. Whatever you want to do.
My daughter's been murdered, and she was murdered on Turkish soil. We don't know if Turkish murdered her. We don't know what nations. We know there's a lot of blood on people's hands, and that she's considered a taboo story. We understand that why. When you look back over her career, they have not even returned Sassy's passport, her personal belongings. Oh. I was looking through the internet, and I saw my daughter's passport on the internet.
You got it? I thought, okay. I didn't know where you got that.
Never received it.
Wow.
They posted her passport in a coffin on the internet. This was freedom of the press in Turkey.
Yeah. Yep, we're back. Yeah, that was Judith Poe talking about Serena Shim being murdered on Turkish soil, as well as having to see her passport and everything online and never being given all her daughter's belongings back. It was a real... I'm sorry, Glenn, say that again. I just heard a bit of that.
Well, it's almost like that was something that was done out of spite. There's no reason for that.
Was there any reason behind it?
Well, I mean...
You're breaking up. Can you say that one more time?
Did they ever give a reason for keeping her things?
No, not that I'm aware of.
I think more than anything, it was probably just intended as a display of power. Like, don't forget, we kept her stuff because we can. We can take other things away from you.
Yes.
I don't think they could take anything worse than her daughter, which they took first, so.
True, but these are psychopaths, and psychopathic organizations with psychopathic foot soldiers run by psychopathic people. So, psychopaths never pass up a chance to flex power.
Yeah, that's the key. Power.
They had to smuggle her body out, for God's sake. I mean, it wasn't like anything I ever heard of in my life before.
There's another issue right there. All this bullshit from the State Department, how we don't investigate the death of Americans overseas and stuff like that. When have you ever heard of the State Department not doing what they do to get the body of an American citizen out of a foreign country. When have you ever heard of that before?
Never. That's what I'm saying. This is so many firsts for me. And I'm sure there are other instances of things similar that we just haven't heard of because so many people haven't heard of Serena. But it's an extreme rarity. I mean, like I said, I've never in my life heard of this before.
For this whole thing, I mean, even close to after it happened, I think the total of airtime that the State Department ever paid attention to this in a weekly press conference is less than 1 minute.
Yeah, they said we have no further information than what we gave you last time.
Which was no information.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, they could have just said still nothing. I mean, still we got nothing for you and dropped the mic and walk off. That would have been about the same as what they did. And once again, people, this was Obama's administration at the time. I know a lot of people that are maybe new to Serena Shim don't realize that. I mean, Trump hasn't done a damn thing and nobody would expect him to, but neither did the Democratic president that everybody seems to love so much. Neither side gave a damn about it. Nobody in Congress, nobody in the Senate, and pretty much nobody in mainstream media gave a damn about the story of Serena Shim. And she was an American citizen. And like we said about a half an hour ago, not even a condolence, not even a, we're sorry your daughter died in Turkey, we're going to look into it, even if it was just some bullshit. Not even that.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. This is, as far as I know, this is pretty unprecedented.
Well, especially since, like you said, look at all the hoopla over Benghazi. And I can't recall his name, but there was another American journalist that was killed over there. And that was used as the pretense for the United States military to start bombing Syria.
Yeah.
I mean, just ridiculous.
Yeah, it always depends how they could spin it, make it worth a story that could push their narrative forward. And if the story can only make them look bad and there's no way to really spin it, such as Serena's story, it's an accident and we're not going to give a shit about it. Jackie Sutton, same thing.
Yes.
She goes into a bathroom and gets hung, and they say it's a suicide. And her quote-unquote best friend all of a sudden, who was, I think, VP of the World Food Organization at the time.
Yep.
Oh, she confided in me it was a suicide. It's funny how all this stuff connects. We did a show with the WIDA Coalition about this a while back. You guys could look it up. I don't have clips from that show right now, but just type in People's Radio, Serena Shim, and one of them will be me talking with the WIDA Coalition about it. And we go into the whole Jackie Sutton and the connections to Serena Shim she had that we don't really have time to go through on this show. Is that Gear about to say something? Guess not.
No. Sorry. There's so much smoke in the air right now that it's really hard to keep a signal.
Yeah, Gear's up north where the fires are, so we're going to talk about that probably Friday, Gear. This isn't the time to do that, so I just thought about that.
No, I just let you know, it's just messing with my signal, because I'm actually not real close to the fires. It's just the smoke is up here. Holy Mary.
Yeah. I'm way south of you. It's not. We haven't got anything bad like that going on around here. Happily, that's a good thing, though. So yeah, you guys, we got the clip. It's Ali Shim talking about his daughter, and it's called Serena Shim, the Powerful Woman. You guys want me to run that right now? Then we can wrap this show up when we come back.
Sure.
Okay. It's about to roll.
People's Radio United.
When you look back at the White House briefings, and Tim, you've seen them over and over again.
Yeah.
They were speechless. The silence was thunder. They didn't even know how to respond. And we saw it firsthand from the press briefings from the White House, where they silenced reporters that asked about her, that mentioned her name. And that's here on America.
You know, the Turkish president, she asked him 2 questions, and he cries. He cries. After that, he wants to kill her for sure. America agrees. Israel brought her. This is what I think. Israel brought her from
Ukraine,
and America agrees, and in the hand of Erdogan, because she asked him 2 questions, and he cried. He cried from the questions. This is Serena Shim.
So he felt like that showed weakness.
Watch, Serena Shim is gonna be a war in the whole world. Remember my word. Remember.
Exactly
Serena
what
Shim is a war.
Erdogan had Sassy removed from Turkey in 2012 when she asked him the 2 questions. She was physically removed from the press conference. We know, Tim, through what we've did, that Sassy was lured there. And we know that many nations, organizations have blood on their hand. They were complicit. And the silence is there. The silence is thunder.
Yeah, I know there were no condolences from the Western region, but as far as like in Lebanon, did anyone from there, offer a condolence or talk about it more than they do anywhere else?
Oh, he can't move. You can't move in Lebanon. Her picture's all over the place. They know who her father is. They know. In the village, Bushabrajna, like they said, she raised our heads high.
So coming from the government, have you had a condolence? Yeah.
You saw the pictures. You show the picture with who she is, okay? Too many leaders in the world, they cannot be with these pictures. Serena Shim and the man with her,
Yeah, can we explain that?
Hassan Nasrallah.
Can we explain that real quick? I'm thinking.
Leader of.
Okay, sorry we keep getting disconnected. So yeah, what we were talking about the posters that were going up, and I'm thinking maybe some of our audience might not understand what we're talking about. So what it is a poster is a picture of Serena Shim next to I hope I say his name right, Sanazarella. And who is he exactly? He's a leader, a male leader, and
he's the leader of Hezbollah.
Okay, he's a leader of Hezbollah, and
right.
to put a woman's picture next to his picture is not accepted generally, correct?
Right.
But that shows how great Serena really was. The people aren't tearing these down or attacking them.
Right.
Out of respect for Serena. And that's what we talked about a little bit earlier, and we talked about again for any people in the audience who might not have understood what we were talking about. Yeah, I know Hezbollah's got a bad rap in a lot of Western countries. But, I mean, they do fight for the people. And historically, they fought for both Christians and Muslims to protect them. So I mean, people need to look into their history and what they're about before judging Hezbollah as they do on our media here. They're immediately called a terrorist group.
That's not it. That's not it only, Tim. Let me tell you. This woman is so powerful. That's why they can't take this picture off. She's a powerful woman. It's not because this guy or that guy or whatever, he's a leader or he's a hero. Nobody understand like her. She's the most intelligent woman. They can't play. They can't play. They cannot.
So having Serena as a daughter.
It's easy for me. I put it. It's easy for me, and I know my girl. Even in a picture, she's big. She's a big leader. They're proud to be with her. Actually.
Hey, we're back. That was Ali Shim and Judith Poe once again talking about Serena Shim, how powerful she was, how amazing she was, how respected she was. I know there was a lot of Ali kept dropping out the call, and we had to bring him back in on that show, so there was a little bit of technical difficulty, but it was still an awesome show. If you notice in the middle, they were talking about how after Serena died, the anniversary of her death, her father Ali went around and put posters of her up, and a lot of these posters were right next to posters of the leader of Hezbollah, and nobody challenged him or bothered him about it. I mean, this is something that would be considered almost blasphemous and outrageous. People could be murdered for doing this. So this shows how much love and respect the people had for Serena Shim in Lebanon.
I think it's also an indication of what Fatma has said time and time again. I mean, Serena's mission originally was to become part of the Lebanese government, to work for the betterment of people. And then as soon as she got involved with government and saw what the game was, she said, I can't do anything here. This isn't going to help anything. So I'm going to become a journalist, because that's how I think I can improve things for everyday people. So, I mean, just the character of the woman is so exemplary and so obvious. This is, it's cliche, only the good die young, that kind of bullshit. But I mean, history proves it. If you can make a difference, you're in danger. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Spot on. That's absolutely right. If you're effective, they will silence you in one way or another.
Yeah, throughout history, even in just the United States alone, let alone the rest of the world, we're famous for doing that here. Anybody who makes a difference, anybody who gets people riled up and ready to fight for something decent and righteous, they end up in jail, they end up discredited, they end up murdered. I mean, look at Michael Hastings. That was right around the time of Serena. We brought that up a few times.
Yeah.
He was getting too close to a story, and his car, brand new, very expensive car, miraculously loses control and blows up when it hits a tree.
Yeah, and I mean, you can extrapolate that. John Lennon, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. I mean, the list goes on and on. Leonard Peltier.
I was just going to say that. Assata Shakur, Huey Newton.
Yep.
Stokely Carmichael.
Indeed.
Yep, Fred Hammond. So many people.
So we could do a whole show on that,
Yeah. Look at Matt DeHart sitting in prison on false charges just to silence him.
Yeah.
So many people.
The ways of the state are well known, but
you know what? Just to clear something up, a second ago I said Fred Hammond. I was going to say Jeremy Hammond and Fred Hampton, and I got him confused. So my apologies.
I mean, the ways of the state are well known. They're well documented. There's a definite pattern, but that connection is obfuscated. It's not allowed to be made.
Yeah, I mean, and that's in the United States, the land of the free, home of the brave, blah blah blah. And in other countries, it's even more blatant, and it's pretty damn blatant here. But it's got to stop. These people, Serena Shim should be alive today. Serena Shim, Glenn, you said this before, and it's very true. With her talent and her look, she could have easily been on mainstream news, reading the corporate government narrative and making a crap load of money, living a comfortable life, still being alive today. But she chose not to. She chose to get the truth out there to the people, to go to other countries, to embed herself where she had to embed herself, to interview people that, like they said in this clip, Erdogan was furious with her. He said, "Get her the fuck out of my country."
Yeah. And like Farah said in one of those clips too, I mean, people question her worth as a journalist. And Press TV selected her to go to war zones all over the Middle East and North Africa and Ukraine. Why would they do that if they didn't have full trust and confidence in her ability as a journalist? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and at the time, Serena worked for Press TV because they gave her the freedom and leadway to be able to report on what she wanted. They weren't trying to censor her as much as other media would do, and that's why I think she chose to work for them. I think she worked for them freelance.
Well, exactly. I mean, how many people that are known in the journalistic world have the freedom where their editors or their superiors say, "Okay, just, let us know where you are. When you've got something, send it to us." Like, that just doesn't happen these days. But Serena could do it.
Yep.
Well, I think we did a hell of a lot better than we thought we were going to do, but we've hit the 2-hour mark, and I think we should just talk about the next 9 days and what people can do to help, where they can go to get informed, stuff like that. Selfie for Serena, Op Serena Shim, speak Sassy's truth.
Definitely. So yeah, does anybody else have anything they want to add before we're out of here? Guess not. So in that case,
I was trying to find my microphone mute button.
Okay.
I don't know. I just really want to say, everybody just do something. The op has done some really cool things and has some really cool actions from time to time, and I'm always watching. And great job to you guys for coming up with that. Get involved in that stuff. But, if that isn't your flavor, that's fine. Just, do something. Do something, whatever it is. Write hashtag Serena Shim on a dollar bill. It'll get passed around, which that's something that Tim came up with a while ago, just, whatever you want to do. I mean, every little bit helps. Make a stencil, hashtag who murdered Serena Shim, and, or who murdered hashtag Serena Shim, and just run around spray painting it. I mean, chalking it. I did not say spray paint. I did not say it. I did not encourage illegal action. I meant chalk it. No,
I'll encourage a spray paint.
All right.
Just tag it up everywhere. Hashtag Serena Shim. You don't even have to put the who murdered. You can add that for effect. Tag it up if you're walking around with a spray can in your pocket. What better use could you have for it?
Well, yeah. Oh, and just I mean, for God's sake, make a window decal and put it in the back window of your car so that people following you in traffic see it. There's like a lot of things you can do creatively. I definitely support the op and help out with the op's actions, but don't wait around. If you come up with something like the car decal idea or something, just do it. This is so heavily censored, and it's going to remain heavily censored until people stop talking about how angry they are and just take action. Just do one thing a day, whatever, or not even one thing a day, one thing a month, whatever you can do, just do it. Those little things will add up.
Just tell somebody.
Yes. Bring it up at Thanksgiving dinner. Be that annoying relative.
Try not to celebrate Thanksgiving, though. Let me just throw that out. But if you're forced to for family reasons, then yeah. Make them suffer through hearing the story of Serena Shim.
You have to go to the wicked holiday anyway.
Yeah.
That's right. Do your part to eliminate the celebration of Thanksgiving within your own family. Make it too uncomfortable.
We just showed up and we fed you turkey and then we neatly disappeared. Woo!
Yeah. I know one time I think, was it last year or the year before, we were trying to mobilize people in the streets to, go out there with coffins and signs and stuff. So I had a giant coffin, and I was out there in Hollywood with this giant coffin and a non-mask on, and the Scientologists were all getting really worried because I was right by the Scientology Center. And, people would come by and ask me, what's this all about? And I got to tell them about Serena Shim, and, a lot of people looked it up and started learning, and I don't know if they went any further than that, but quite a few people that day learned the name Serena Shim and learned about the story just from me standing on a corner for a few hours with a giant coffin.
Awareness.
Yeah, so I mean, anything. If you're standing in a line to get your new phone or video game or Szechuan sauce or whatever the hell you're trying to do, talk to the people in the line about it. I mean, just say, have you heard the story of this journalist that was murdered, Serena Shim? It's really terrible, and it shows what our countries are doing to support terror. Yeah, do what you can, guys. Thanks for listening. We're going to wrap the show now. Just do what you can do, especially during Million Mask March. Get out there, hold a sign, take a selfie for Serena Shim. Like I said, follow at Operation Serena. All the information's over there. That's at Operation Serena on Twitter, or look up the hashtag OpSerenaShim. And for this next week or two, there will be the hashtag Who Murdered Serena Shim. So definitely follow those, check them out, give them a lot of retweets and support if you can, and it will be greatly appreciated, and you can feel good that you're doing the right thing and doing something to get justice for someone who truly, truly deserves it. Have a great rest of the day, you guys. Happy birthday to you, Serena Shim. You will be missed, and we'll see you guys next show.